Due to this set size, there's no time to waste. Let's get going. The set that we're building today is 2507, also known as Fire Temple, consisting of 1,180 pieces. This set contained 7 minifigures, including Sensei Wu, Kai, the debut for Cruncha, Zane, Samukai, Lord Garmadon, and Nia. This set was originally sold at $119.99. This set was originally sold in 2011 in both Germany and Spain, but else in the world, August 2011. There we go. That's enough time to separate it out. Now that that's out of the way, let's start building with what is regarded as a very, very fun set. There's an actual reason why it's regarded as a very fun set. A little bit of context as to why I say so much about this one simple set. Even though that it's got the most pieces for any of the sets around this time, being 1,180 pieces, this set is kind of famous, I guess. Going back to 2011, and I don't know if technically this award still goes on, but I know that there's an award that this won. And that specific award happens to be Toy of the Year. Now, I don't know if there's any specifics that I'm missing when I say that it was Toy of the Year, like maybe it was Toy of the Year in like building toys, but I just remember it won Toy of the Year. It won Toy of the Year in 2011. That much I know, and that's about it. It's not the fact that Lego won, or the fact that Lego Ninjago won. No, it was Lego Ninjago's Fire Temple that won Toy of the Year. And it was going up against, all the way up to the finals. I read something about like Barbie being second place or something. It's been a long time since I've read that specific piece, but I don't quite remember every detail. The fact that I can remember anything at all for this set is remarkable enough. But to think that this single set was able to win Toy of the Year and not just a whole series teaching kids whatever, being, I don't know, there's probably a lot that goes into why that decision was made. Probably interactivity, appeal. Maybe they actually have kids test it out or something, like at the awards. I don't know what goes into it. Hey, I'm just trying to report it the best I can, okay? Now, obviously, before I did mention that Cruncha had his debut in this set, but the main plug for this set doesn't happen to be him, but it's actually another minifigure and what I'm building right now. Even though the original asking price was $119, and that's probably around what I bought it for. I don't quite remember where I got it because this was a pre-owned set that I had. If you were to look up the prices for this set nowadays, it'd probably skyrocket to around $300, maybe $250 plus now. Simply because this is a collector's item, because it is one of the original 4 dragon sets, and because it has Samukai, who again is only available in 2 sets in total for the entire series, those being Fire Temple right now, and another that we had built before, which was Garmadon's Dark Fortress. And I'll leave a link down in the description for you to check out the entire playlist. If you'd like to go straight to the Garmadon's Dark Fortress set, you can just search it up in my channel. It shouldn't be too far down in the list of videos. It shouldn't be, but if you just click on the playlist, you'll be able to find it just as fast. Now, going back to the other minifigure, even though that I kind of dismayed him a bit, Cruncha. He's another general, and he actually is the only one that has like a general warrior type helmet decoration. Everyone else is a little bit different. Whiplash has his wicker hat, whatever they're made of, and he has the worm that's crawling outside of his head. Samukai has the only opposable head. Knuckle has his signature spikes on top of his head. And then Cruncha, just the general of Earth, because Samukai is fire, Knuckle is lightning, Whiplash is the skeleton general of ice. Yeah, that should be all. That should be everyone. But trying to move forward with topics so I don't just get cramped in a position where I can't talk any further. Cruncha, being in his debut set, be very aware that this specific minifigure does not stop appearing after this set, and he also doesn't stop in the show. So after this set, be prepared to see him a bit more, but don't be prepared to see him more in the upcoming series sets. Oh god, I gotta remove this piece because I put it on backwards. I was able to look up some of the next few sets when I was trying to look up the information behind this set, and I stumbled upon more sets that involved Cruncha, so I wanted to talk about him a bit. After appearing in this set and then a few after, he continues to show up not only in the LEGO sets, but also in the show. They're introducing a bunch of cameos into the show, even though they're technically not cameos because they're always in there, and it's not like they don't go away and then it's just like a hidden character or something. They're just out and about in the world, and that's what you're just supposed to be aware of, is that they don't just ever go away. But the fact remains that it's just him and Knuckle. For whatever reason, only Cruncha and Knuckle are the only skeletons that really remain. I don't really remember if any of the standard skeletons, I'll just call them foot soldiers, the soldier skeletons, because these are general skeletons. I don't remember if any of the others happen to stay within like circulation of the show, such as Crazy or Chopov, or what are some of the others? Bonsai. And I'm missing one more. I can't think of the last one, unfortunately, off the top of my head. But in saying that they do come back into the show every now and again, it's no more than just like a few grunts. Like, they don't really have any lines per se. Like, they just happen to come out of nowhere, get blown over, in some case most likely by wind, or let's say one of the vehicles. Look forward to that in the future. One of the vehicles, most likely from the ninja themselves, running them over by accident, or just whipping past them and then they spin in a cartoon fashion, in a cartoon-like fashion, I should say. I do know that it's physically possible for that to actually happen, for something to have enough power just driving past to knock over an individual. But moving away from the whole skeleton idea and that topic, I can actually start talking about this build, sort of, because I'm still trying to plan out how I want to talk about things in the most concise fashion and in sections. In this section, I kind of wanted to talk about the minifigures there and being... Oh yeah, that's right. And actually, that does remind me. The one other special minifigure that there is Sensei Wu being in his black kimono instead of his standard white. I completely forgot about that. And so long as I can talk about LEGO minifigure variants, hopefully in future I won't just show off these sets, because I do know that there are a few collectible minifigures that are only available as like one-offs, and hopefully I can get my hands on those as well, because they are kind of important if I wanted to do the whole portrayal of every variant. I won't try and spoil anything, but there's supposed to be other forms the ninjas have when using their abilities, I guess I could say. But one other variant that I know that I can show if I ever get those, because I won't show it off as like one video. I'll gather up all of them and then show them off as one dedicated video if I can. There is one specific minifigure not available in any one-offs or any sets at all, and it's a character that you guys have not seen yet, so I won't spoil the name, but he's only available in a book. Hopefully around that time I can actually show it off, and maybe that might be interesting. I hope so. I have to attach it like this to the camera. There we go. All in. Perfect. And that's the start of something great. Now working on to bag 2. Yep. Bag 2. And just so you know, there's 7. Well, there's supposed to be 7. I did have to use one extra bag because obviously it took up too much space in these tiny little Ziploc bags that I'm using. Not a sponsor. I think I have to specify that because I think that's technically a brand, even though that's like Kleenex and tissues. Like everybody just knows that, or sherbet. Actually, that's another big one. The word sherbet is actually copyrighted, so all those icy treats are actually known as sherbets. And then there's only one sherbet. Here we are, all separated out. And now we start building probably the most fun part. Well, technically not the most fun part because technically we did start building a bit of it before. But this is like the main plus of what this set is. Never really understood why it separates it out right in the middle of building it in the bags, but I guess like you need a way to separate the size of the bag, so I won't talk too much smack about it because this is a set that I actually really enjoy. Now, because I guess you can kind of tell what it's starting to build toward, even though that I did kind of mention it before saying this is a dragon set. I am building the fire dragon, but that is something that I wanted to talk about. Technically, this doesn't count as a dragon, and I made sure by checking up last night. There are 4 variants of dragon for the ninja, being their 4 elements, and that being fire, earth, lightning, and ice. Don't really understand, and I've never really understood why those are the chosen elements. But I guess that there is one more element that comes into play after, which I lost in touch of the show before they introduced it. So that'll be a cool addition for me to learn about. Hopefully, kind of went into ooh language there. Hopefully we get to see that come into play later. But if you look at the decal of the eye, unfortunately it's going to be really hard for you to see in the camera angle, and I'm pointing over at my viewfinder, which is off to the side. Each dragon has their own variant of the eye, the look around the eye, I should say. The ice dragon had more of like a crystalline shape, and this fire dragon has more of like wisps that go off to the side. And I know that for the next 2 dragons that they also have some decals around the eyes that I'll try and explain a little bit about. But in saying that the next 2 are dragons, the first 2 dragons that they even introduced aren't even technically dragons. That being the ice dragon and the fire dragon. And look at that, we get the fireball, which is a lot different from the very first ice dragon attack Dragon Ball, because that wasn't even the right shooter, as well as this one actually has like some decal to it. This is a red ball with yellow marbling, I guess you could say. I think that'd be the right word to use. Yeah, once I start getting into the latter half of the design, it kind of explains why this set isn't, or not this set, but this dragon, Jesus, this dragon isn't technically a dragon, I guess, and I don't even know where it begins. I guess there are specific looks that require a dragon to be a dragon. So let's go with the standard Western dragon, what we're all used to. Apparently, that's supposed to be a long snake-like body with 4 legs and 2 wings. And that's what is supposed to be the standard dragon. Now, in this set, and Ice Dragon Attack, it's a long body with 2 legs and 2 wings. Technically, that is not a dragon. Apparently, that's what's known as a wyvern. And then there are some other variants, known as a worm, which is taking a long snake-like body, and that's it. But it does have a dragon-like head, or mystic being-like head, I'll call it, because technically dragon-like head isn't correct. I don't know. And then after the worm, the dragon, and the wyvern, there's my personal favorite in looking at the designs. And it's known as the Drake. One of the future dragons to come is technically a dragon because he does have wings, but the design of the wings is a bit iffy to even call them wings. So once we get to that, I'll show them off. But that would be the Earth Dragon, obviously. The Lightning Dragon, I won't spoil anything because there's a very, very, very special set that involves him. I can get my hands on it because that one is particularly expensive for whatever reason. But the Earth Dragon has these kind of dinky little wings, almost... I'll compare it to... I forget what the name of the dragon is from How to Train Your Dragon. The big old fat one that, like, throws a glob of molten lava or something. Cannot think of the name of it, but it's got like a bone-like club tail, or a club-like tail. Bone-like. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, the Earth Dragon has that short, stocky design where it looks like it shouldn't be able to fly, much like the Bumblebee. The introduction to the Bee movie. As much of a joke and as of a classic that has somehow become, I don't think it's all that good of a movie. I don't think anybody else does either. I'm not entirely sure. Like, I don't know if the joke is that people don't think it's good as well and just joke about it there, or if they actually think it's genuinely funny and continue to celebrate it or something. Okay, time to admit some guilt. This being the very first one, this was one of 3 or 4 pieces that had seen some damage from either storage or taking it apart. Unfortunately, it does happen, so there's that. But it won't affect the pieces all too much. I know that these that piece grips pretty well as the other pieces that are a little bit broken. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, I just remembered that I was talking about the Drake. The reason that I would consider the Earth Dragon in its set as a Drake is because the wings don't really go outward like you're seeing for this specific set or any of the other sets, really, whether it being Ice Dragon or even Lightning Dragon, which is kind of like my favorite to look at. Now, it's not my favorite class, even I don't want to spoil anything. It looks the best, but I like the Drake class for mythical beasts, I guess, the best. I don't know what I'm talking about. I barely do. But the main reason why I do like the Drake class a little bit better is because it's supposed to be more agile and more accustomed to land maneuvering, whereas you can escape to the skies using dragons and wyverns. I don't know about worms, however. The WYRM version. I know about earthworms, but celestial body worms. I have no idea how they work. The only thing that I really know about it is the fact that they've got a snake-like body, and that's really it. That's all I know at all about them. I don't know if they're confined to the ground or if they have this unique ability where they kind of just like float through the sky or worm their way through the sky. Thinking that they have the ability to make themselves go through the sky is the main reason why I prefer the Drake over everything else. Because even though that the dragons and the wyverns and maybe the worms have the ability to traverse through the sky, they're supposed to suck on land, and that's where the drakes excel. However, dragons being able to fly and all, they're probably much faster at flying than drakes are at running. The dragon and the wyverns could probably pick up a drake on land and then pick it up and then take it around 10,000 feet, drop it, and then it's dead. But who's really to say? They don't exist. Now, the main reason why I ended up talking about like the different looks of the dragons is because I had found this out a little while ago, and I thought it was interesting myself that that Lego had included the different dragon-ish designs. The more I looked into it, I just found out that technically there were only 2 variants, but I didn't really mind because one of them I see as a 3rd variant, which technically isn't right. But after a while, I kind of forgot what all the classes were. So last night, when I started to think about it, and I wanted to talk about it on here, I thought it would be a good idea to look back up the stuff and see what information I was missing. I had completely forgotten what the worm class was, and I knew that the fire dragon was a wyvern. I knew that the lightning dragon was a dragon, and I knew about the drake class, but I knew that there was a 4th class, and I didn't know like if there was a difference because of like the tail, which you'll see for the fire dragon. I didn't know if there was a difference between tails that resulted in a different class, not realizing that it's the appendages that basically make the worm class on its own thing. And maybe Lego wanted to do that, but they thought, people wouldn't really like the look of this dragon, and they wouldn't really want to pay for it if they're paying for a dragon and it looks like this. So that's probably why they stuck with 2 classes. But I do know, after like looking up this stuff, that there's some in-between classes as well. Like, it's not just they're all dragons and they're all wyverns and they're all where should I move this? The tail kind of gets in the way now that it's like available, so I'll just curl it up, put it back over here. If I can remember, there's like an in-between phase between a drake and a between a dragon. Between a worm and a drake. A long snake-like body that would resemble more of a worm, because they're technically supposed to be like a longer design or a longer body. The worms are, compared to every other mythical shape. They're the only ones that have like mile-long bodies. In between the worm design and the drake design, there's one that has only a front set of legs, and that's supposed to be like an amphiterian or something like that. It was only on a few select like descriptions, so it didn't really ingrain itself into my mind. But then from that class connecting into the dragon, even though technically I would still consider it a wyvern because there's only 2 legs, since they're the front legs and then wings, there's another class there, but it doesn't make sense to me, so I don't know. It's all made up stuff anyway, so it's not like anyone needs to worry about it. I just thought it was neat that there's like a whole idea behind it that people might believe. I don't know if there are people that are really that dumb. The legs and the wings are on like these pivot points, which I don't believe the ice dragon had, but it's been a while since I built that, even though that I've never had it before. I don't quite remember. These pivot points are just there, and they're a bit rigid, but it's more so supposed to be kept in one position as a Lego figurine. Would you consider this a figurine? For other figurines, you have to build them, so why wouldn't the living beings be called minifigures? Well, yeah. These are minifigures. That's a figurine. Yeah. That's a better way to class it, I guess. I don't know. I'm just losing my mind. Slowly but surely. Listen, I have 1,180 pieces to talk through. Eventually, I'll run out of topics, and running out of topics is actually a topic that I had, the topic that I wanted to talk about. So normally, whenever I build one of these sets, I have a bunch of time in between whenever I would record a game series. However, the latest game series was Ben 10 Omniverse 2, and boy, what a letdown that game was, and what a quick game it was as well. And that's the whole reason about me having this topic at all. I normally have a little bit of time to think about something to talk about. I was able to scrounge up some idea of what I wanted to talk about, but not enough to cover 1,180 pieces worth. I'm barely scratching the surface of this dragon. As I'm finishing up this dragon, I'm definitely going to try and spit some more stuff at you. I barely have an idea of how I'm supposed to talk about this next topic, because I thought of it last night right as I was about to go to sleep. There we go. That's the fire dragon. That's not the end of the set. Because this technically isn't the end of the set, and there's 2 more books and 5, technically 6 more bags to go through. I'm gonna move fire dragon off to the side and then start building the actual fire temple. May I have mercy on my soul. And now I have before me what is supposed to be technically enough room to house this next building, but I know for a fact that this is going to prove a little bit difficult, and I'm saying it right now. I'm going to try my best to try and keep it facing the camera in the building process. However, I know that there's going to be a certain point where I have to turn it toward me so I can see what I'm building, just because of all the angle mess that is going to end up coming out. When I was taking this apart, I vividly remember these being flimsy enough just to not really like fall apart, but just like slip away from one another. And they just needed to be pressed back together, and it's only like a piece that's keeping them together in total. After a while, trying to keep them all together is a bit annoying, and I'm calling it now. If I get annoyed with this part, I'll just try my best, I guess. Right now, since there isn't a lot of weight to deal with, it's going pretty well, but I know for a fact the moment that I start getting into the outer edges is when it starts to fall apart on its own. Half of a subject before I get into my full idea of what I wanted to talk about. Even though this is technically called Fire Temple, I don't even know like the proper term that this building is supposed to be. Monastery, synagogue, even though I know that's definitely wrong. Right. Okay, yeah, here we are. Now it's starting to act a little bit funky when trying to keep it together. When me questioning what type of building this actually is, it also raises another question. Are ninja a part of the Chinese idea of defense? Self-defense? Because I know Japan has samurai and everything, but the Chinese have this, right? Like, that's what it was in the past. Unfortunately, I really have not a single clue of whether that's true or not, or if I don't know anything of what I'm talking about. Probably best to say that I don't have any idea what I'm talking about. I would like to know, and that's where anybody with knowledge comes into play, or I could just look it up myself. I'd rather have engagement. So yeah, leave a comment. Now going back to the original topic before I started bag number 3 and book 2, that topic being having no topics. Since the game that I played was so fast, I didn't have anything to talk about. I started to wonder what the hell I could fill up all this time with, so it wasn't just giant skips, and it would end up being just one giant speed build, which I don't particularly like. I thought I may as well just talk about how I've slowly gotten better at learning to BS. In some of my other videos where I have built these sets, I obviously slowly start to run out of topics and just kind of ramble on about nothing. Lo and behold, through this, I've actually gotten a little bit better about just BSing the entire thing. Now, I've always been pretty good at it because I've always had this weird ability to perform, let's say, like an oral report for like an English exam or something like that. I can always just look at my material for 5 seconds and report something as if like I had prepared it months in advance. I'm kind of near that level, good at thinking on top of my head. However, if you ask me to do an exercise that involves improv and scenes and everything and trying to follow specific rules, boy, somehow I just suck eggs. I don't even know how I'm that bad at doing it. I know I'm bad at it, but I still like watching TV shows like Whose Line and everything, just because they are fun. They're fun to watch, and it's incredible to think that somebody's mind can think that fast on just a moment's notice. Now, I don't know if there's anything that's cut out in between, like if there's multiple takes, or they record for literally like 20 minutes and that's it, and then they change studio audience, and then they record the next 20 minutes or something like that. Oh yeah, I should probably introduce the first rubber band that you'll be seeing, which has seen some better days. It's a bit loose, as you can tell if I stretch it. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. If I move it over the black, you can see just how stretched it's become. Like, this is like barely moving it at all, and it's that loose. There's 2 of them that are exactly like that. As much as I like to see improv and people who are good at it succeed, I cannot. I'm more someone who excels at taking on a script and then portraying a character, also known as acting. That was the whole idea of what I wanted to talk about in this section. I know I've talked about it in a few of my old videos, and even like some of the relatively newer-ish game videos, but I know I haven't talked about it in one of these videos. Therein lying the problem, because as much as I am doing all these videos on YouTube, I don't like the idea of becoming someone that's known that way. Now, because of how the world works now with all social media and crap, you need a bit of a following to get anywhere nowadays, so I thought might as well try and experiment, see what I can do over here on my own, maybe garner a few views and attractions here and there, and then work my way into the actual acting scene, where I'd like to continue on, whether it be in Hollywood or elsewhere in the world, because obviously there's branches all over the world where you can act and everything else. But I'd like to start off with acting and then progress into other parts of the field, such as writing, producing, directing. Oh shit. Well, that piece just broke while I was putting it together. Great. Oh, that's Nice. Wait, where did it break off of? Oh, on the inside. Okay, I didn't even see that if it was already, like, starting to snap. Weird. I mean, it is a bit of an older set at this point, so I don't blame it for trying to just take a dive. Like, no more, please, end my suffering. Oh god. That's not that's not good. But so long as I'm talking about wanting to get into the field of acting, I should probably say like any experience that I do have in acting, and that would go back to when I was in 6th grade, I believe. Yeah, 6th grade, because it was the year right... No. Okay, so I tried out in 6th grade. Yeah, that's right. Tried out in 6th grade, and we were actually doing the musical in 7th grade. Although I knew that my school did have a drama, not a drama class, but a drama production every year, and you could start doing it when you were in 7th grade as well. It just happened to be a coincidence that I could do both in the same year, drama and the musical. And the first experience was the musical that we were doing was, oh yeah, The Wizard of Oz. For some reason I was like, Dorothy and Dorothy and her friends. That's all that came into my mind. I'm like, that's not right at all. Yeah, so we decided to, or the school did. The school decided to do that, and it had been years since the school had ever done a musical. First one ever back, and I'm able to act in it. And I can remember I had 5 roles. There was one of the crows in the scarecrow scene, obviously. Then there were these things called the jitterbugs. And then there was like a snow cloud. That's 3. Then there was the Winky Soldiers. I think that's what they're called. For some odd reason, I can't really remember who the Wicked Witch recruited to protect her, basically. And then the 5th role, I can't remember for the life of me. There's one more that I know. I had 5, but I don't know why. I don't remember the last one. And then from there, the next play that we did, and then we did drama, and then I did drama, excuse me. But it was more so just like a one introduction character, and then you were off the stage, because it was like my first year doing that, and it had been going for a while, so the person who was in charge wanted to see like where everybody was at. And then the second year, 8th grade, I was Winthrop Peru. Winthrop Peru. For some odd reason, that sounds right. Oh yeah, Paroo. That's right. I knew the name of the character, but for some odd reason, I kept thinking it was he was named like the country of Peru, and that's like a main lit character, I guess I would say. Winthrop Peru being the brother to the main heroine of that whatever her name is. I don't quite remember the full character list. I barely remember Winthrop. All I remember is that I just needed to speak with a lisp the entire time, or I was supposed to. Suffering succotash. So as soon as I started to speak like that, all I could think of was Sylvester the Cat, and probably for good reason, because he also has a lisp. I mean, it would make sense, dumbass. Oh, I just realized I wasn't building this at the angle that it's supposed to be for the camera. There we go. That's roughly what it's supposed to be like. And for the most part, I can actually still build according to the camera. I know for a fact when I start working on the front, I won't be able to like try and finagle my hands. I'm gonna have to keep building up facing me. That way I don't make any mistakes. Any stupid mistakes like I did with Skull Truck somehow. Twice. Let's see. And then in 8th grade for drama, unfortunately, I don't quite remember a lot of what the drama productions were. There are memorable moments that I can remember for sure, and I'll try and get into it a little bit. After Winthrop Peru, we then move into 9th grade, which was... 9th grade was, I believe, Alice in Wonderland, I think. Off the top of my head. I remember correctly. And in that one, I was the Cheshire Cat, so a recurring role, but it kind of stepped down from the previous year, but I didn't mind. It was just still something fun that we had to do. And that was around the time that I thought I still wanted to, like, continue doing it after graduating and keep acting. Because for whatever reason, I remember this vividly, but I don't remember ever singing it. Both days of the performance, whenever we would do the musical for the general public, I don't remember singing the Cheshire Cat song once, both times. I know that I sang the song. I don't know if I did it well, but I just remembered. Oh wait, whoops! I was building off center a bit. I remember singing the song. Well, actually, no. I remember singing my lines up to the song. I remember the first few notes of the song, and then cut. My mind went blank. So that led me to thinking, yeah, I don't actually like singing and acting. Maybe for like a movie, like where the audio can be perfected, but I don't really like the live scene. And then the more I started to pay attention to actual live acting and everything, even Broadway productions where I've been able to experience some really good shows, such as The Book of Mormon, which is written by the creators of South Park, that I've already said in the last episode how much I really, really like their show and how much I'm starting to get into it now, and the witty humor that's behind it, even though there is supposed to be gross humor involved and whatever. The show is written well, and so is the musical written by them as well. Now, it's got crude humor, which is right up my alley, but for some people where they don't enjoy the word, what's one word to ease it in that won't get me restricted from viewership? Because I guess that's a thing as well. All of a sudden, I released my second LEGO video, which is Skull Motorbike, and looking at the analytics, I found out that it wasn't being shown to as many people for whatever reason. And then I look into it, and it's probably because I swore a bit more in that one versus the one right before that. So that's great. Comparing the Book of Mormon, which was phenomenal, I did still pick up some audio mistakes, but I don't think that's like the Broadway production's fault. I think it's the place where we went to see it and the person who mans the audio, which sounds stupid. The person who mans the audio should be perfect at his job, otherwise he should be, let go. But it only happened really once that I noticed, and then my mother and I happened to come into some tickets just by pure coincidence for The Lion King, and that's a great show as well that I highly recommend, but the audio mistakes were much higher in that one, mainly because there's more characters, I think, that have spoken roles. Maybe, I don't know, but there were so many instances where the mic just wouldn't, where the person turned on the wrong mic and you could hear somebody exhale after just doing like a flip or something mid-state on the stage, and then that mic was turned on and then you hear this and it's really annoying because obviously they can't control that. They're just trying to get their breath back, and the person who's actually supposed to be talking isn't mic'd properly, the mic isn't turned on properly, so their projection isn't there, so you miss like half of a line because somebody was too dumb. Yeah, it's just a long-winded way of saying I'm not into the whole live scene, but I am into acting for screen, and that's where all this leads into. I like the idea that I can control whether or not a take is good or bad, and if it's a bad take, that'll be removed and it won't be seen by the general public. Whereas with live theater, if you mess up, everybody sees it, and that leads into other scenarios. In 10th grade, I believe, I don't remember. Oh yeah, in 10th grade, I was Bob Cratchit for Christmas Carol. I think that's the name of that Christmas movie with Scrooge. I think I was him, as well as, and I think you're supposed to do it this way. You're supposed to have the actor for Bob Cratchit and young Scrooge be the same person, but obviously have a costume change involved. And that was a thing that, like, I got used to pretty quick from my very first instance of, like, acting with, like, live stuff. Having 5 costume changes in the same show, and, like, they were all perfectly timed because they were big outfits. Like, we would wear, like, these giant white robes for these snow clouds, and then these black, like, poofy suits with feathers and arms and giant thigh-high socks and flippers for the crows, and that was like one right after another. So I got used to the whole idea that, hey, you need to do it fast, and everybody else is changing around you. No one cares what you're wearing. So I got used to the idea of just removing any clothes that weren't necessary, obviously, in between. Right before each show after that, I just said, leave your dignity at the door. And that's exactly what you need to do. If you're mid-costume change and your scene comes up, it's your fault for not showing up. And that leads into the next year. After 10th grade as 2 roles, I then go into my junior year of high school, 11th grade. I have the role of Dr. Dolittle for the entire show. The main role, the main singing role too. And I should probably talk about this. There's a little knob down here. I don't know if you can see that, unfortunately. Sorry. This camera angle's a bit far. There's one node over here, one node down on the bottom, and then another node that all connect with a third rubber band. Oh yeah, and I remember that you're supposed to thread one of the sides of the rubber band, I'll call it side, through this little slice of the circular pieces. Like, they're little, normally whenever you attach it to a piece below it, it'll just slide in there, and that's what the rubber band is supposed to be slid into as well. I'm just gonna focus on this just so I don't make any mistakes real quick. Okay, looks good to me. But yeah, junior year was Dr. Dolittle, but I think I skipped my sophomore year for drama, which had the best joke. One of my acting friends, who shares the exact same name as me, we were given this couples role. Not just we, but the director and my friend and I, we decided that after exiting, because we're supposed to be like a honeymooning couple sort of thing, I jump into his arms, me being male role of this marriage, I believe, because it's supposed to be a honeymoon, I think, if I remember correctly. Him cross-dressing as a female role, I hop into his arms, and then she, the character, carries my character out the door. However, every time that my friend had to do it and carry me off, I had to tuck in my body so tight because the doors that we were using to separate out the scenes were very shoddy. They were these thin wooden planks basically stuck together, and then the handles are these tiny little metal things that you can barely like wrap your index and middle finger and your thumb around to open. So he's just holding me, and he has to run through the door because obviously the scene is changing that fast. So every night I had to try and make myself small enough to reduce the amount of like pressure where his fist would run into the door, and then my body, obviously, there were times where we would look at his hand after, and look at the gloves that he's wearing, because they're the gloves that come up to like mid of your forearm, obviously because he's a respective lady. But there were times when we would look at it and there'd be blood. He would run into the door that hard. So we needed to figure out a way to deal with that, and we never did. Somehow we just let it fly for the time being. Senior year, my band director, the band director for the school, I should say, because there were 3 graduating seniors that had been in from the very beginning, from when you could like actually get a role. Like the cutoff was however old, like you couldn't be 6th grade or below getting an actual like speaking role, which was like a crow way back when in 7th grade. My band director, and I believe my choir director right now this year, is writing her own, or has written her own. He wrote it specifically for the graduating seniors, myself and 2 other friends, not being the one that had to drive his hand through the door, because I was 2 years younger than him, but that was his graduating year. It was great. Yeah, that's bag 3, and let's see. I want to finish up this topic roughly of where I'm at. Senior year for drama. I don't actually remember all too much. Oh yeah, now I remember what I wanted to talk about. Back in junior year in Dr. Dolittle, there was an instance where there were 2 mistakes. The first show went off completely fine. The second show, the person who was acting as the judge in the case for Dr. Dolittle, and if you haven't seen the show, or if you haven't seen the performance and maybe the movie, I don't know how the movie works, unfortunately. I don't even know. I haven't seen the new iteration with Iron Man. What's his name? Robert Downey Jr. Yeah. I haven't seen the new version with that, even though that I've heard that it kind of tanked hard. There was an instance where the judge was trying to speak to me, and he turns to the audience, but not like the audience, but to the audience of the court. And he moves so fast, and this thing is on wheels, and it's shaking. The whole podium starts to tip. Luckily, there's somebody that's on the backside that we've got in like a morph suit, and she just clings onto it. She's like a third of the person's weight, as well as the weight of this entire rickety thing. So it did take a little bit of time for it to get settled. And then, obviously, how do you recover from something like that? My mind barely put 2 and 2 together, and I just said, "Excuse me, sir, did you feel that earthquake?" And that was enough to save it. And then later in the show, the head island monk or whatever was played by one of my friends, and he had another role that he was changing into, but he completely forgot that he had another set of lines. And boy, was I not ready for that. So the improv for that was gone. And that's exactly where I don't like live acting. Now I can get into the next bag and talk a little bit more about the rest. And bag number 4 has been separated out, and probably the quickest bag separation, mostly because a lot of the pieces are just huge, so it took up a lot of the space in the bag. Probably both the Ziploc one that I was using and the bag that it originally comes in. I'm still trying to figure out, because I know for a fact that I will have to switch angles for me to try and build with. However, from the looks of like where I'm progressing to, I don't think I'm going to need it for this step, but probably bag 5 is right around where I is where I'm going to have to start the different angle, unfortunately. You lose some of the finer details, but instead of having to deal with that, just look toward the future, because while I look at the mess that is before the final showing, you get to look at the progress that's being built up, and then at the very end, I get to unveil the final product, and it's this magical unveiling. Yeah, we'll go with that crap, and not the fact that I'm limited to one camera angle and can't do anything else. Much like my oral reports in school, I can BS anything. Even though that I've seen the final product for this set, as well as I deconstructed it as well, just to like see how it all comes together and how it all comes apart, I'm still fascinated by like each progression, I guess I'll say, because with each step you see more and more of what it is building toward, and it's just so cool to see like the end product, the way that it all works together. If you slide these in properly, how do I slide it in? If you slide it in underneath this red tab here and on top of the other red tab, it slides in. This little peg down here that you can pull on with the rubber band latches onto this and keeps it in the center, and then you can do the same over here. There we go. Perfect. Trying to lead back into my topic of not having topics, even though that I am still somehow doing well enough to not talk and talk, I guess. I don't know. Going back into wanting to try and progress into the world of like acting and everything, I don't know where to start. Basically, that's something that I have to try and figure out. Is the issue is that I don't know where to start looking. I don't know if I need someone else to look for me, or if, even though that I don't enjoy it, my mother is indeed right and I have to stick with an acting school or whatever. Unfortunately, some of the colleges that I have looked at do all say that I will have to take classes that don't have anything to do with the major. It's just standard curriculum that you have to go through, even though every single course, because I was in an advanced class for almost every single class that I took, except for history, obviously, because I don't think there's an advanced history. I mean, how can you make an advanced history course? Oh yeah, here's the next step. You have to open this up and then line these little holes in the white pegs and line them up with the rubber bands that we placed all the way in the beginning over again, and they are lined up. Then you take these light gray, dark gray, no wait, there are light gray pieces, these are the dark gray. These dark gray pegs, slide them through, and now what they should do is they should catch on the rubber bands, and if you let go, they spring back a bit. And then you push them back to the center, and just to make sure that they do indeed work, I'm going to do this. Show you the main play function of the entire set. Ouch, it hit my wrist. Yeah, it opens. But there's more to come for that, obviously. Oh yeah, and then in the instructions it says listen out for a click to make sure that they are in the locked position. One of the parts that we built before with the other rubber band, when it latches on, it does have like a nice satisfying click sound. No way in hell do I think that the mic will be able to pick it up, but oh well. Oh my god, I've got the hiccups and I'm starting to burp at the same time. That probably isn't good for audio. As I'm going through this and like how fast I've been doing this, I slowly realized just how fast bag 4 has gone down. Maybe, no, based off the size of bag 5, because I know it's a bit of a bigger one, and I don't know if it's because there's bigger pieces or what. Don't quite remember, unfortunately, for that bag. I doubt that I'll be able to get into the next bag, which is bag 5, and there's 2 of those. That's the only one that has 2 bags, by the way, of my own. I doubt that I'll try and continue building. I'll probably separate it into 2 recording sessions, but 1 video, just because I find that annoying when people split it up in different videos. It's such an asinine thing. I don't know why people do it at all. Well, I understand why people do it. They want money, but oh well. Based off the time that I have and how much I've already put into this one recording, which is nearing 2 hours right now, which I think is still like a good stopping point anyway. I think I'll finish up the rest of this bag, stop the recording, close down everything, and then come back and then do what I have to do, and then come back a few hours later and then finish up the build, because it seems to be going at a steady pace. And if this is bag 4, the last 3 bags should go a lot quicker. I kind of lost my train of thought because I think I had one idea that I wanted to talk about, but then I started to talk about the topic about not having topics again. Oh yeah. Well, this is another idea that I have that I just came up with right now. It's not even a part of the one that I forgot, nor is it supposed to be the part of the original not topic. But one thing that I'd try and like to do is maybe reach into like the voice acting scene. I don't know if I'd be any good at it. I might have a range, but if you can't like handle like certain like limits to how the human voice actually does work, it's kind of like having an artistic skill. Just I have no artistic skill at all. I don't know how lighting works, and that's kind of evident in these videos. Even like I try my best. I try my best with color correction as well for the camera angle, but obviously like if I show my hands now, they're completely overexposed. But it's hard to try and deal with black suited characters on a black surface and then try and deal with overexposure and also correct color and everything. It's just I have yet to learn that, and that's more so the main reason why I want to go into acting first, and then like talk to other people in the industry, and then work my way into actually acting or directing and producing and everything. Writing, I guess technically you have to be creative to do that, and I do have a few like stories in my head that, well, technically not stories, it's like a story, but I know that it breaks into 4 books and then one-off series. But that's about it. That's all I can do. The people who can continue to write books like Stephen King and Stephen King? Yeah, not Stephen Hawking, Stephen King. The people like Stephen King who can create completely different scenarios, even though they're technically all just like horror and gruesome and whatever. The people who can continue to write different stories are the people who succeed. And even though it's like somehow still in the same universe, someone like Rick Riordan, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Someone like him who can just constantly keep writing, whether it be for the Percy Jackson series or the Roman series or the Egyptian series or the Apollo series or the Norse series that he started. As much as I love the Percy Jackson series and I love the Roman series, I'm in the middle of book 2 for the Egyptian series. I have the first Norse one and I have the first Apollo one as well, but I still have yet to touch either of those. I really like the way he writes and the ideas that he wants to try and help the younger generation and try and understand basically how like life is working out and the whole what's my identity stuff that he's done actually well from what I've heard from the LGBTQ community. I'm still gonna pronounce it like that because it makes more sense rather than LGBTQ plus community. The one book series that I have in my head that I could easily see turning into 4 movies, kind of follow in his style in my head, especially in his Egyptian and Roman series, like where it is always like first person perspective, but it changes between characters. I guarantee that there's other books or other authors out there that do write in that fashion and have a changing first person perspective, but he's the only one where I've just thought, wow, This is done extremely well. Everybody's thoughts are different. Everybody reacts differently. But then again, it's the only one that I've ever actually seen that like that. I guarantee there's probably other people that are like that. And in saying that, I've even like cut down a lot on how much I used to read. Like I used to read like a book a day that was like 300, 400 pieces. And then somehow it's just all started to slow down. Then I got into manga, which has more pictures to say the least. So maybe my intelligent quotient has gone down from staring at pictures instead of reading words. But there are still words on the page, and depending on who's writing the stories, maybe it's more psychological, more horror, more adventure, whatever. And with that, well, actually with these, I've come to finish bag number 4 and a good resting place. So you won't see any difference between now and the future, but I will be taking a break. And it seems from the next bag, I am correct. I'm gonna have to turn it toward me. Well, here's to the future, I guess. I'm glad you stuck around to watch more of this. I mean, for you, it would have seemed weird to leave off midway through a video that you enjoy, I think. I'm just gonna start building what I see, and obviously this is the start of bag 5. I skipped right to it, and I'm coming back from what I was doing. Of course, it's been a few hours for me. For you, it's literally been a single frame difference. Same old, still in quarantine, but still have to take care of others. It's just building this, and I just happened to separate out the pieces. I've completely forgotten any topics that I was thinking about while I was out. That's right. While I was out doing whatever I needed to do, I was thinking of what to talk about. And I had some pretty good ideas, and then I got into working, and I forgot. In a matter of 3 hours, roughly, I thought of some ideas to talk about, and then forgot them. Woe is my life, I guess. Listen, I'm going to apologize. I'm an idiot, but at least I'm an idiot that can continue to bullshit until he remembers what it is that he's supposed to remember. I think what I left off with, yeah, I think I should talk about that. What I remember leaving off about was talking somewhere in the mix of why I like Rick Riordan's books, why I would struggle with any sort of writing material as an author or a script writer for myself. And that is simply by the fact that even though that I've written these books in my head and the scripts in my head, don't have a single clue how to write the middle area. I've described it to some other people in my family. I struggle with it because I have the beginning and the end in my head, but how to make a good story is the journey. Like, nobody really remembers why a story is good unless the middle is what keeps you interested the entire way through. The ending could be the best thing in the world, but without a good foundation to build on, the ending just kind of seems weak, and the beginning just kind of lines everything up for the rest to happen. And that's what the biggest issue that I have is with writing. I could just get down to brass tacks and just like force myself to write it, but I wouldn't have anywhere to go. And one specific example that I like to use is Rick Riordan's first Percy Jackson book. Before you ever know that, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read it, I guess, but it's been out for a while. And it's kind of like the most known thing, like same sort of thing as Darth Vader being Luke's father. Like, that's just known. Percy Jackson is the son of Poseidon, and before you know that, even though in the movies with Logan Lerman, something, it's broadcasted to you in like the first 30 minutes, the books don't tell you until the very end of the first book, right? I think so. Or maybe like 3/4 of the way, But before Percy even knows himself, after escaping from the time-traveling casino, Annabeth, Percy, and Grover all hop into the back of a like a moving truck kind of thing. Is it headed for a zoo? I don't remember that specific fact of like where the of like what the truck is or what it's doing, but I vividly recall Percy's first encounter with like a supernatural ability of his, which is being able to talk to horses because his father, Poseidon, is the god of horses. I don't know. Like, there's something that ties Poseidon to horses, and in that connection, Percy can somehow hear the thoughts of a zebra, and that I remember vividly. And, like, that's one thing that sticks out in my head. And also, them interacting with Medusa explicitly, I think, or one of the three sisters of Medusa or something. It's been a while since I've read any of those books, so some of the material is escaping me right now. But if I were to read it, I guarantee I'd be able to tell like what comes next. That being said, Rick Riordan's really talented at writing the journey of a hero or a heroine, and whereas I know the beginning and ending of my books, like I know the beginning and the ending of each book, like in my head, the development to the ending is what I cannot figure out how to make entertaining, because I could make it like a 4-page book or something, but no one would want to read that. Now I remember what I wanted to talk about, one of the topics that I had thought while I was out, and it kind of pertained to the whole reason why I don't even have any topics to begin with. Even though that I have been able to spew out for 2+ hours just about nonsense that nobody really gives a rip about, and they're all just here for this. The fact of the matter is, I like to do a set after completing a game series. And in the last game series, Ben 10 Omniverse, during the credits, I mentioned what series I would like to record next. And I thought that it was going to be some of the Arkham games. Lo and behold, I find out that today, Call of Duty released the remastered version of Modern Warfare 2, of the campaign anyway. I don't know if they're gonna ever do anything with the multiplayer. As of today, they released it to PlayStation, and you can also pre-purchase it for Xbox and PC, but you won't be able to play until April 30th. But by the time this episode comes out, it'll already be that time. Oh, I also wanted to mention before I get off topic and get into the next thought, I'm just going to turn this towards you so you can see. If you can tell, just like right here, there's two little, very tiny little studs. One white stud and then a colored stud. I'm not sure if I'm right, but I think that this is supposed to be a table where this little black block that they're sitting on. And it's supposed to be black tea and green tea. Like it's supposed to be a white cup with some tea in it. I think that's what it's supposed to be. But I'm still not 100% sure even after all this time. Now going back to Modern Warfare 2, the campaign. Modern Warfare 2 Remastered campaign. Modern Warfare 2 campaign remastered. Yeah, that's correct. Ignore everything else. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to buy it for PlayStation and just record it there, because I want to get back into using the PlayStation controller, because I've spent a bunch of time on the Xbox 360 controller, and when I picked it up to try and update the system for release of Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, it felt awkward to hold the PS4 controller. I'll try and record it on there. I don't know if I'll be any good. FPS games on a controller have never been my strong suit, nor have any FPS shooters ever been my strong suit, although the progress that I've made recently somehow proved to say otherwise. What you're supposed to do is, if you do have Xbox, or if you have Modern Warfare on PC. You can pre-order Modern Warfare 2, and apparently you're supposed to get a free skin pack that goes immediately to your account for Modern Warfare 2019. I don't really care about skins at all, to be honest. I think they look kind of tacky. Like, they just look boring to me. Now, if it's like an extra weapon that you can only get from purchasing it, I guess I'll just have to purchase it twice, because I kind of want to get back into playing on controller for FPS games, which sounds dumb, but it's where Call of Duty started. It was on console, and then it moved to PC for more accessibility and players to outreach it, and like, it was a good step for them, in all honesty. But that being said, if there isn't a weapon that is a part of the whole Ghost pack, I'm just going to purchase the game on PS4 and then play it there, and then not have to deal with it ever again. But if the multiplayer ever comes out, I'll just purchase it again. I mean, it's $20, but that's $20 for the campaign. They might release multiplayer at the same time for every console in the future for MW2 Remastered. But for now, that's just a fleeting dream. Maybe not come true at all. I'm getting ready for Modern Warfare 2 campaign remastered. Yeah. Because I never played it. I don't know anything about No Russian. I swear the enemy, or one of the main soldiers that are in, or one of the main generals in the game is supposed to backstab you. I guess that's a thing in the game. I don't know. I know nothing about like the storyline of it. I don't know if it's any good. I just know that it was released today, and I'm gonna start recording it tomorrow instead of Arkham. I'll just have somebody probably angry at me, but you said that you were gonna record this game. You can get over it just like I will. All I know for this game is that No Russian is in it, and I guess you can turn it off. For anyone who had any issues with it, I don't know why it was ever a thing. From some clips I had seen of it, and it's just like going really by quickly as like a joke or a nod to it, or just like one of those Watch Mojo videos of like, when game top 10 reasons or top 10 ways a game has crossed the line or something. Whenever it was explained, I just thought to myself of, wait, isn't this a mistake? Aren't these soldiers just going in to shoot what they think is supposed to be their enemy, and then all of a sudden they realize that it's civilians, and then they have to back out? If you play the game like it's meant to be played, you're literally just pulling the trigger. It's not like you're actually meaning to kill civilians. And that being said, it's a game. You're literally just pulling a trigger, sending information onto a disk or onto a download, which is then interpreted by a machine, which at this point is now basically a computer with how far technology has come, and it just reads the information that it's given. It's not anything too impactful. Like, yeah, it's like a grim situation, but it's warfare. It's not like I'm hitting the nuke all button on Tokyo or something like that. Oh god, why'd my mind have to like tie nuke and a city of Japan? I could have said Uzbekistan or something. Rush-Bootistan. Combine a bunch of stuff. No, I actually say a city that's in a country that was bombed. Oh god. Well, leave it to myself to be a bad person. And speaking of Rush-Bootistan, that's another thing that kind of has to do with acting. It's gonna take a little bit of explaining. So, obviously, there is a country known as Russia. Obviously, there's a country known as Djibouti. Me being a dumb kid who doesn't know any better and is an American, a stupid American at that, did not know that Djibouti was an actual country. So, I'm I'm in this, it's like a seminar. It's called Kids College, where children from the age of, I want to say, maybe 6? Maybe 6. To the age of 14, maybe to 16. The cutoff might even be 12. I don't really know. For a week, I believe, parents pay to send their kids to a 1-week seminar that's basically like a STEM camp sort of thing. And it's always different stuff, and you can choose which things you want to go to, obviously. Otherwise, if you don't like cooking or sewing or something, you can always just opt out for something else. This is also the point where I need to turn toward me. Sorry, but you'll have to wait until you see the final product. I remember there was one that was called like The Amazing Race, which is based off the show of the same title, but obviously they don't make money off the class explicitly. It's just the name of the class in the thing, which is basically just like a game show sort of thing. And my team, and I would go to this thing every year because the person that did it would always change up the games every single year. Every year, my team would always go with Djibouti as the country that we were playing as. Did we win every single time? Djibouti was the winning country every single time. Another seminar, that's this thing called HOBI. I don't remember what it stands for. 3-day over a weekend seminar at a college in Rochester, New York. Basically gathers one sophomore per school that's chosen by the school, or if you pay and write an essay and are allowed in, you're allowed in, basically. If you pay, write an essay, and then are allowed in, you have access to it. That's what I wanted to say. It ties into basically the same sort of thing. Like, it's a bunch of like, oh yeah, we're trying to teach kids how to be better people for the future and whatnot. The stuff was cool. The people I met there were cool as well. But one thing in particular was everyone needed to make like a showcase, and everybody had a specific movie that they needed to do. And my group was somehow in charge of you didn't pick. You were given what the movie was about, which was the I forget how it was worded, but it was just flight was our main idea. And then you had to have like a challenge to overcome, basically. And ours was foreign films. Boy, we had no idea how to do that. First off, you have to try and make people believe that you're teaching them about the wonders of flight mechanics and shit. And then you also have to do it as if it were a foreign film, so as not to make anything improper, because the entire seminar was all about empowerment of those being bullied and shit, even though that the rest of the time all of us were just like, something about this seems a little bit odd, because these feel as if like the people themselves would almost do it to the kids. My group, we started to talk, and we had no idea what to do. And then all of a sudden, I just speak up, and I'm like, well, this always worked for this other thing that I did, which I explained to you before, for Djibouti. And then somebody said, well, I don't think we can use a specific country because we don't really know what their language is, with their native languages. And then somebody else spoke up and said, why don't we just not do a language? And somebody else chimes in and says, yeah, why don't we just combine a few countries together and then make up our own language? Lo and behold, we choose Rush-Bootistan. And along the way, we start trying to think of how to teach flight if we're just going to make up our own country or in our own language. We have to try and teach some flight, and just randomly, one day, one of the people that was in my group before all these groups from all across the state of New York get together with different people, not even from like what area you were from, because you were taking up a shuttle, dropped off, placed in a group that's different from anybody that you were together with on the bus from the area that you live nearby. And then that group is later split up into other groups, and that's what the movie thing was about, is trying to meet other new people. And randomly, I got paired with one of the people that was in my group already. I knew for a fact, because he had been doing it, because he was born, I want to say he was 50% deaf in one ear, and then 100% deaf in the other. And obviously there were some issues because nothing was really prepared to help him. So we had to help him every now and again with what they were saying, but for the most part he could hear perfectly fine. I guess he's gotten really good at reading other people's lips, because there were times when I couldn't hear something, but at that time I also didn't wear glasses, so I couldn't ever like see what was on like a projector screen that already kind of sucked. But he would basically tell us sometimes what was going on. But whenever there was free time, he would either like draw or do origami, and that's where my idea for the story of Flight comes into play. Obviously, he's the only person in our group that can do anything, and I just say, this is the best thing that I've got. How about we have one teacher who's teaching in class, obviously in Rushbootistinian, Rushbootistine? I don't know what the language, Rushbootistanese? Yeah, Rushbootistanese. That'd be the official language of Rushbootistan. We've got a teacher trying to teach a class about flight mechanics, and we have two students who try and build paper airplanes. And then while I go to help him, or those two, because I'm mistreating the one other boy who can do origami, I treat him poorly. I walk away. I go to help out the other two. I come back and I see what he's done, and he's made this origami crane. And boy howdy if we didn't win. I didn't really mind us winning so much as somehow out of nowhere I believe I was either using a urinal or I was brushing my teeth, and these two people were using urinals, or I was in a stall. I can't really remember what. I just remember being really, really happy to hear this. I hear two people who are like big old stocky guys that I wouldn't think that I would be friends with. I hear them speak up and say, yeah, that one guy that was doing that Russian thing, I could almost believe that he was speaking Russian. Do you know if he actually does speak it? In my head, I'm thinking, oh my god, I'm with a bunch of idiots. But at the same time, I was also thinking, wait a minute. Am I that good at bullshitting that I can make up a language and then give it a racistly Russian accent and get away with it? Like I was doing like a this sort of shit. Just out of nowhere. It felt so good to randomly hear that. And it couldn't have been anywhere else. Just like while I was in seclusion and they were just talking amongst themselves. You know, I think that's how it was. I think I was using a stall using the bathroom, and that's how I heard it. It's just two guys like brushing their teeth talking together. And now that I have a break in what I can talk about, let's discuss this. So as you can see by these red pieces right here, they were in the red pile, but you can also you might be able to tell that there are some dark gray mixed in. That's because this specific piece is technically two pieces, but I could not get any of them to separate somehow. I don't know why they won't. But as I was trying to separate it out yesterday, I kept hearing this weird sound. Plus, they're really thin and flimsy. So I did not want to take any bets at all and risk anything breaking that is kind of important. So I just said, you know what? Fuck it. It's staying connected. It's not going to act like a necessary piece to be together because everything ends up being built around the same time anyway. Lo and behold, it's roughly like 1.5 steps that it takes up, so don't mind me. I'm just working a bit ahead. That's a little bit more of why I like to act, is just to make myself feel good, be more self-important because I need to be jazzed up, I guess. No, not really. It's just the fact that somehow, in some way, I am good enough to make up a fake country, a fake language, and still have someone say, yeah, that sounded good. Like, in my head, I was just like, I'm just doing this, we're getting this over, we don't need to worry about anything else, somehow we win, and I get an extra reward on top of it that nobody else knew about, except for me. Well, until now. Except for me until now. You say, stupid? You know what actually might be a good idea? Just because, like, if anybody's viewing this and somebody else might have advice, if you have any advice at all, like, somehow this is still quarantine time and you just randomly stumble upon this exact video, and you know how to progress in the acting field, like if you're supposed to get an agent first, or if you're supposed to keep trying out, get a role, secure a role, and then get an agent to make sure you're being paid correctly, get an agent, and they'll tell you the place where you should go to get a role or whatever. Let me know. I am very interested to hear anything. And that's quite literally serious. I don't care where the information comes from, so long as it's honest. There are a few websites that I have checked out for roles that I could try out for, but even the one website that I've looked up to see if it's trusted, I don't even know if it's right to think that it's trusted. And I won't say the name just in case, like, somebody's like, oh yeah, I want to get into that I want to get into that business. What's the website that I should use? And then somebody hears me say it and, like, they try and use it and somehow they get groomed into being like a prawn star somehow or something. Ooh, would you look at that? This is the final step of book 2, which is on the back cover. I don't think I've ever seen that in any other Lego set where one of the final instructions for one of the books is actually on the cover. And it doesn't even, like, finish off the bag. It's just randomly in the middle somewhere. There we go. Book 2 complete. Now on to book 3, which only has a few steps left, as you can see. Now I guess I can start talking about this next thing that is kind of funny, but also kind of dangerous. In the world of Lego, anyway. Pets. I have 2 dogs and a cat. For this story that I'm about to say right now, the dogs aren't really all that important. But what is important is my cat. My cat can climb up to some very obscure places, and some of those can actually reach Lego places. That's what we're dealing with. And unfortunately, my cat has found his way to this particular Lego set, mainly because it was on display and it couldn't fit in any of my totes that I had because of its size. It wouldn't fit anywhere. So I kind of just had it out, and that's why it's so dusty if you were to, like, look at it in person and not through a screen. But if you'll look at these flames right here in person. Obviously, you won't be able to see them in the camera. There are some little nibble marks. They have been bitten, unfortunately. Now, is it his fault? No. It's just something that he likes to rub his teeth up against, and it just happens to be there. And that's it. It's not his fault at all. He's an animal. When he knocks them down, like when they pop out and fall onto the ground, this part is where it gets him into trouble. He likes to bury some stuff, as all cats do, obviously. He likes to brush them under my carpets, and there was one time where, for the very first time when this had ever happened, it had fallen on the ground and he had buried it, I didn't know that he had done it. Randomly, I did end up finding it under the carpet, but before that, I thought he had swallowed it, and swallowed it whole. I immediately called my veterinarian, and he said, it's fine. If it's a small enough piece that can fit down his throat, it should be small enough to pass through his intestines. So, that was fine. On to bag 6. Alright, let's see. The first step involves what? It appears glaring light is added to this. Even though that I kind of did half of a segment, I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to do my when was this recorded bit. I know that I mentioned the release of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remaster. Even though that's technically enough to spell out when this was recorded, I'm going to mention that this is also the week that iDubbbz released his iDubbbz Complains Sex Workers Edition. I don't get it. I don't get what all the fuss is about. I'm a fan of iDubbbz. Like, he does some really good comedic videos, and that's all that I really like about him. His timing's good. He's creative in his jokes. But I really don't understand what all the hate is around his girlfriend making an OnlyFans. She's still a human. She can do whatever the hell she wants. Not like he controls her like an object. Like a slave. You know, that word. That bad word. That thing that we wanted to move away from. The thing that we moved away from only a few 100 years ago. Barely. Not even 200, I don't even think. And the fact that women had the right to vote in the US in 1919. So it's barely been 100 years of women being able to vote. Somehow I don't quite understand what all the fuss of him allowing his girlfriend to have an OnlyFans where she doesn't even post nude photos of herself, and it's literally just her wearing revealing cosplay, I think it was, somebody said. Like, it's just, it doesn't make sense why anyone would raise a pitchfork and a torch and a pitchfork. Yeah, pitchfork and torches. What's the correct order to say that? I think it's grab your torches and pitchfork. No, grab your pitchforks and torches. I think that I don't know. That's a whole nother topic that I don't need to bring into this. But yeah, like, that's when this was recorded, was around that time he released it, and I just don't understand it. Even the claims that he makes in the video that people disliked about it, like, he's 100% correct on it. It's literally just stupid why anyone would think that he lied. I don't even know, like, what he would lie about. For some of the things that people might think that he lied about, even disproves, like, the thought that he didn't like sex work. There's always going to be a market for it. I mean, there's places where prostitution is legal. Who fucking cares? I mean, Canada, it's illegal to pay for a prostitute, but it's illegal to be a prostitute. And I think that's exactly how the US should handle it. If somebody's in need of money, go ahead. Unfortunately, you found yourself in a position where you think this is your last option to make money. Unfortunately, that's the future that a lot of people face, is they are scared to not have enough money to survive on. So they do some outlandish things, and it's a scary world out there. If it's to get food on your plate and food for your children to eat, I don't care at all. You're trying to help those in need survive. So I don't know what the protocol is to have that changed around. I wholeheartedly agree with the whole Canada thing, that it's legal to be one but illegal to purchase one. I don't know. I was about to say it might even slow down the rate of abductions and forced sex work, but no way in hell would that ever be reduced. People are just taken from their homes, from their vehicles. Planet Earth is not a place that humans should have touched, unfortunately. And right now, with COVID-19, I think Mother Nature's getting her revenge. And as sadistic as that sounds, it might just be right. I mean, the disease came from nature. Did something to bats or something? I don't know. There's so much shit out there that I keep hearing that I don't know if it's true or not. I'm just gonna let it pass me by. I'm gonna let everything keep moving appropriately. I'm going to follow guidelines appropriately, but any information about it is not for me to disclose, not for me to say. Listen to health officials. Do not listen to your local fish market flounder who you see every now and again in your drunken stupor. Just be responsible. Learn to deal with them. It's your fault for making them if you can't stand them being at home. And the whole thing that I heard recently about, I love my partner, I love my wife, husband, but I can't stand to be in the room with them for months on end. What the hell? Where the fuck does that come from? Like, no. You should be happy to spend every waking moment with that person. If you've decided to say your vows to that one specific person, and you feel the need to say that you wouldn't want to spend months with them, something just doesn't add up. Oh, okay. So, those blocks that are, like, together, that I can't take apart, that I don't want to break, in this row right here, the middle section, they're placed on, reverse of what these are. So I'm glad that I followed the instructions instead of just like memorizing what they were like this, because I just happened to look over and I'm like, that looks different. Lo and behold, they are set up different. It's just a bit alarming just to think that I might have put something on wrong the very first time I ever built it, and it was never built right to begin with somehow. The closer and closer that I get to building the top of this, is the closer and closer I get to finish this temple. This is bag 6. And if you've been paying attention, there are 7 bags. What could possibly be in bag 7? Well, you'll just have to wait and find out in the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. Now, if I had an announcer's voice like the old dub did, boy, that would be fun. I wouldn't mind where I would get my jobs with a voice like that. I'd do any voice work if I had that voice, and any voice work at all would be paying anything. Job after job after job after job. Just so long as I'm keeping up with making sure that my voice is actually, safe. And it's not like my vocal cords will get ripped out somewhere along the way because I took a job where it was on the black market or something. Speaking of animation, or even anime in general, one thing that I'm kind of glad that has had a resurgence is the growing population of YouTube animators. I'm very glad that there's a second coming of them. I was never around for the initial animation scene, but this new uprise of people actually being decent animators, as well as having the ability to, you know, create an audience with their content. Some of my favorite animators of this new scene most likely are the crowd favorites of everybody else's as well. So I don't think I need to give them any more recommendations, but I will say I am starting to enjoy the whole playing old DS games and what's it called? Nuzlocke? Yeah, the Nuzlocke playthrough from Jaden. And the fact that video went trending, probably not only for gaming but animation, is sweet to look at. Well, maybe I might announce another one that has become one of my favorites pretty quickly. Emirichu, something. I'm relatively new into her videos, but the whole deal with her bringing on other people and talking about their experiences with like animation and old movies and everything, and the most recent one with embarrassing anime goer experiences with Sea-Dog VA and Ditus, and Sea-Dog VA being someone that I've started watching recently as well, so it like just came perfectly in time. But I mean, they've worked together a bunch, so I've seen both of them work together with their collabs. I'm just talking in a circle, basically. No way in hell have I ever seen a successful anime club, and boy howdy do I want to know how anybody even stays in those groups. I'm not sure if you just have to be one of those people that I'm turned away by to keep enjoying a club like that. From their stories, Emirichu somehow had an okay club, whereas the only one that I've ever visited was in college, and oh my god, did I want to get out of there fast. They were creepy. Well, then again, right before I graduated my school, which goes from kindergarten through senior year, all of the students are together 100% of the time. There's no middle school and high school separation. It's all one big school. They had just made one, and it was no better. I'll tell you that much. I don't get it. There's a reason why they're called degenerates, but the people that can enjoy the shows and everything and not somehow get into that mix are my types of people. But I have yet to ever go to a convention, and I don't think I ever want to. I'm glad for the people who feel comfortable in their own skin to do it, and for the people with even more confidence to go in costume. You be you, but I'm not going near you. And well, even saying that's probably better, because you'd probably feel more comfortable not being approached by a 20-something-year-old male. Yeah, because I wouldn't either. I'd run away as fast as fucking possible to the nearest police officer this side of Mississippi. Sorry, that phrase just sounded like it should belong there. I keep looking at these pieces and seeing how much dust is collected on them and how much like rubs off when my fingers rub past the dust. But I'm more interested in the areas where there is no dust, where there were pieces before. And like I find myself putting on the pieces that fit where there isn't dust back where they were. Basically, I'm just making sure that no dust collects on the parts that are clean. Even though technically I should do the opposite, put the pieces where there is dust, so it'd be like an easier way to separate it out. The closer I get to putting on these final touches at the very top, it reminds me just of how funny this next build is. Okay, it's right here. So if you pay attention to the top, there is one like solid peg over here, and then another peg or block that's got a circle in it. Let me show you this next step after I put it together. You see the tower and everything, and you see this decoration on top. Where do you think it's supposed to fit? It's not centered. It's here, not here. I mean, it makes sense and everything, but it's still aggravating when you know it's not perfect. Look at it. If you just take a quick glance at it, it looks fine. However, if you know that it's there and the more you stare at it, the more noticeable it is. Not enough for a passerby to be like, wait, hold on, that doesn't look right. But someone who takes enough time to look at it and appreciate it. One of these things just doesn't belong here. Something that you find funny might not be funny for others. That's also something that you should consider. Whenever you show somebody something and they don't find it funny, don't ask them, oh, you don't think it's funny? Just enjoy it by yourself, and then they can go on their merry way wondering what kind of human being you are for laughing at South Park's portrayal of Donald Trump. Yeah, we'll just stick with that, because that's something that they did. Their portrayal of Donald Trump being Mr. Garrison, who is a gay transsexual? A gay transsexual. Oh, wait, no. He admits that he's gay, and then he gets transsexual surgery. Okay, I've only gotten so far in the series, so I don't know how everything works, but I've seen some stray episodes where he does get bottom surgery. That's what it's called. Yeah. Where he gets bottom surgery and becomes a woman and then is a lesbian. I don't know. He's the most experimental character that they have, I think. That can probably get away with a lot of what they say. And there's bag 6. And that's almost done with this temple. There's still one more bag, but there's also still one piece left of this. And then there's some extra bits that you'll have to wait and see. I mean, you're going to see it right now regardless, but you know, just wait and see. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have reached the final set of pieces. And in separating them out, I actually remembered one of the topics that I wanted to talk about. This mountain that we have climbed together in building this single set, has brought us together. But it's 1,180 pieces minus these guys because I left them built together. Pieces that we built together. And that's not even the tip of the iceberg because I know that there's other sets. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. 1,180 pieces. It's a mountain to climb for sure, and it's a good one. As I was looking up the information yesterday, along with like the worm and wyvern and dragon and drake differences and everything, I happened to stumble across some of the newer-ish sets. Not totally new, like newer than this. This is 2011. There are 9 years in between when this was made and where we're at right now. So obviously there's going to be a bunch of sets in between. And that involves some sets that passed this set's amount of pieces. I'm just happy to find out that there are sets that have more than 1,000 pieces, that have more than 1,500 pieces, more than 2,000 pieces. And that's not even the most pieces there are in one set for LEGO Ninjago. Well, LEGO Ninjago's Masters of Spinjitzu, the televised version. The movie sets are a little bit different. I guess buckle your seatbelts for more to come in the future. As much as I'm going to enjoy it, the thought that there's a set that has 2,000 pieces that I'm going to try and get my hands on. And that's not even the most. That there's 2 other sets from the movies. LEGO Ninjago Docs, I think. I'm not sure if it's the Lego Ninjago City Dock or Lego Ninjago Dock or something. There's a specific name for it, and I just haven't spent enough time to look at it as to why it's called one way or another. The Lego Ninjago Docks or whatever it is isn't even the most pieces in a set, and I know I've talked about this before because it's been pressing on my mind, because that is like 3,000 pieces, and that's not even close to what the next one is, because the next one is oh god, the next one is upwards of 4,000 pieces, and there's a specific reason why all of this is made the way it is, and I say it every time. There's a specific if I can just speak. There's a specific reason why every Lego set is made the way it is. God damn it, I just can't talk. And now we take these flames, which are entirely different from the other ones that you put on up here, and then once all the flames are pinned down, you just rotate them facing the gold piece that you had set down before. Lo and behold, you make this. Pretty close to all the spinners that we've made before, but it's not really a spinner. And now I've got a walkway for them to walk into. We're still not finished yet. Obviously, there's a bunch of pieces that are still strewn about, but they have nothing to do with this. Kind of. I'm just gonna move this off to the side, and I'm doing it in the most dangerous fashion possible by carrying it with one hand. Not gonna lie, when I first built this, I remember having this feeling of, oh, this is the way that they finished it. Oh, this is cool. And I'm still getting that feeling of like, oh, this is such a good way to finish building it, because you build all of these epic things, all the minifigures, the dragon, the fire temple, and then everything wraps up with these smooth, soft designs. And I can't wait for it to be fully finished, for it to like show exactly what it is. This is the point in which I introduce one of our fallen soldiers. I don't know if that can be seen. That is one of the green plant pieces that has 3 sprigs of leaves coming out of it. Unfortunately, there is 1 sprig only, or 1 leaf only, and then 1 sprout of another. Don't know how the 3rd one disappeared, because it disappeared cleanly, but it's supposed to be over here, whereas these 2 are in the middle and on the right. One of them just broke off cleanly, another one broke off at the leaf, petal, something. It's probably somewhere in the tote that I just have to find, but kind of sucks. But at least this one is hidden, so it's not really like the main focus for this build. So I'm just gonna push it off to the side. Out of sight, out of mind sort of mentality. I mean, it's not like I'm going to sell these sets, because I hold them near and dear. Why would I want to get rid of them? I might not play with them, but I still enjoy looking at them, seeing what I've done with my own 2 hands. And something that also has kind of like piqued my interest is Gunpla. I think that's how you pronounce it. Building Gundams. But I know that it's a little bit more difficult than playing, using Legos to build stuff. And even saying a little bit more difficult, I know that it's not even like a step up in difficulty. Like, it's a jump up in difficulty. But it is something that has piqued my interest. And I think I remember hearing something about Gunpla stores, or stores that sell any Gunpla, skyrocketing in sales of them just because of COVID-19 and everything. Because people knew that they were going to be locked away in their houses, so they stocked up on things to keep them busy. I mean, hell, I'm doing this. It can't be that much different. And now for the building of the best part. You build all of this and I just say, now this is the best part. It kind of undermines everything that I've done before this step. I'm building a tree, okay? I'm gonna tell you that, and the roots go in specific directions, all right? Don't want to mess this up. Now, if anybody can leave down in the comments what type of tree it is, because I won't say what it is. Also, around this part, it's a little bit, like, flimsy, so it can easily fall apart if you're not holding on correctly. So trying to deal with flimsiness and trying to get the stuff in the right order without like being able to see much of it. And here come the petals. And that's another part of the fire temple. But there's more. There is still yet more to be had. Fire temple, you may have been a mountain to climb before. You may have been a mountain to unclimb before. But, fire temple, you are no longer a mountain. You are but merely a molehill. You're a molehill now. What am I doing? I just thought about what I'm talking about. I've lost my mind, haven't I? Start to try and finish this last chapter. We must say farewell to another fallen soldier. This one not as damaged. He just broke a leg this time. He didn't lose his bottom half. He just lost a leg. And it's the middle leg for this plant. Yesterday when I was taking them apart, I noticed that it was like flimsy and I just happened to touch it and it just started to wobble, so I just plucked it off. I didn't mind too much. It was going to fall off anyway, but it's still a lot better than the other one. I will probably shut up, but probably not, because knowing myself, I'm just going to continue to talk. Now this side, even though that it also still does have a sakura tree. Ah, shit, I didn't mean to say it. Oh well. If you didn't already put it down in the comments before, you know it now. It's a sakura tree. Even though this one also has a sakura tree, this one I find a little bit cooler. Oh shit. I just tried to put in this thing and it broke this piece right here. Oh god. Well, now it's flimsily in there, so I guess I just gotta get used to that, and hopefully I don't do the same with this one. Oh my god. I just put this one on, and instead of the other piece breaking, the gold piece broke. What is my luck? That you can't write that. You can't write that in any other way. That's just pure bad luck. What juju did I just come across? Oh yeah. Another thing that I should probably mention. In this instruction booklet, this specific piece that goes up top here, and I'm just realizing that I'm building it toward you, and it's really flimsy again. For whatever reason, that specific piece doesn't like to show up in the instruction booklet correctly. Like, it cuts off like about half of it. The closer and closer I get to finishing this, the closer and closer I get to leave this back room that is a little bit stuffy and is keeping me from food. And I don't know if in the last hour-ish, if my recording is going to pick up any of my stomach, because it's been growling for quite a while, and to me it's been loud, but it might not be loud at all. Beyond that, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out to see the progress of this build and just enjoy some of my other videos, because most likely if you're here, you had to sit through for a while. And if you dedicated yourself to sitting through this one, you've most likely dedicated yourself to sitting through others as well. With this final piece, we are complete. There we go. That's all of Fire Temple. That's 1,100 pieces, 1,180 pieces right there. See? That's what you were waiting for. Right? That is what you were waiting for, wasn't it? Ah, hell. This is what you've been waiting for. This has been a long time coming, and it's kind of like a benchmark for what's to come for the rest of this series, really. To be able to build an award-winning set and be able to record it and build it myself and just put it out there as a video is something truly special that I have the privilege of saying that I've done. But I know that you're really all just sitting around waiting for one specific thing. Ah, shit. My arm got in the way. Take 2, but this time I'm gonna move myself completely out of the way so my arms don't interact with it. Here is take 3. Oh, Jesus. All that setup for that little payoff, and it didn't even work fully. Oh well. What else could I ask for? That kind of sums up everything that I've ever done for any of these videos. A whole bunch of setup for something very lackluster of a finish. Have a nice day.